It's Wednesday, January the 24th. Lake level is 908 3/4. It's coming down slowly. They've been, generating some water. I did get a chance to get out. Was out Monday. Today would have been a gorgeous day to be out there. There was no wind. Get up to almost 60 degrees. But I went out Monday when it was freezing cold and the wind was blowing 20 to 30. But the water temperature on the main lake was about 42, 43 degrees. As I went back further into the creeks, we had a hard rain Sunday, and it was pretty warm out Sunday, so I thought some of the water coming into the backs of the creeks might have been a little warmer, but actually the further back in I went, the colder it got. And pretty much most of the ice is gone right now. There's still some in the upper river arms, but it should be gone by tomorrow or probably Friday with the weather that we're going to have. But I found fishing to be extremely tough. Like I say, I just got out one day in the past week, but I kind of mixed it up, tried to do a lot of different things. The wind was blowing so hard that I could not fish too much out on the main lake, so I was back in the creeks trying to get a jerkbait bite and a crankbait bite, which I never could get it going. And I actually tried some deep fish. But the problem was when I could find a few fish, it was with the water coming over the front of the boat, it was hard to stay in one spot. I'd like to thank everybody for helping out by buying raffle tickets for Nick Kaler. It's been an awesome response from you guys. Sportsman Factory Outlet has raised over $8,000. And they're going to continue the raffle ticket and the sale going to the end of the month. So if you get in the Sportsman Factory Outlet, you buy a raffle ticket for $5, anything in the store is 20% off. And you're going to keep that sale going. But it's been an awesome response from everybody out there. So again, thanks. But, back to the fishing. I just found it, extremely tough. Like I said, I've only been out one day in the past week. And in the wintertime, I've got to do a little bit of construction work to keep the bills paid. But I do try to get out as much as I can. But the fishing's been, pretty tough the last few times. It's been real tough the last few times I've been out. But the weather's been changing. It was warm, then it was cold, then it was real cold. But it looks like the weather's going to be consistent for the next 3-4 days and warming up. One thing we should start to see, I didn't see any shad dying, and we should start to see a shad kill. It normally seems to happen when the water gets about as cold as it's going to get and it starts to warm back up. So it looks like we've got a little bit of a warming trend coming, so hopefully we'll see some shad dying off, which will help in the long run, throughout the lake. But a lot of times when them shad start to die off, what I'm going to talk about here today is a technique that we haven't used very much in the last couple of years because we haven't had a good shad kill. The water hadn't got that cold. But it's a float and fly. And, it's a real big deal down south, like in a lot of the Tennessee lakes. And we've had a lot of success up here with it. Seems like, late February, sometimes early March is when it really shines, when the water's starting to warm back up. But I'm going to kind of go over the rig a little bit, how I rig it up, what I use for baits, and I'm going to try to get some videos out on it within the next week or two. We're going to go out and fish it, and hopefully I can show you a video. But to start with, usually use a 9-foot rod, and the reason we use a 9-foot rod is because the leader length is going to be anywhere from 10 to 15 foot. I usually I'm using 832 Suffolk braid for my main line, which is 15-pound braid. It's about 5-pound diameter. And I've got 2 or 3 different ways to rig this. So I'm going to show you this one here. It's got a 3-way swivel, and you'll see the little bobber or cork. But what's different on the cork is it's actually got weight in the top of it. So we hook the cork to one part of the swivel, main line to the other, and then on the third part of it, I've got my leader. And this particular one, I've got about a 15-foot leader. The reason you need a 9-foot rod is you got to kind of cast it almost like you're fly fishing, but when you catch a fish, you can't reel that swivel up through the rod. You can only get it to the rod, so then your fish is still 12 to 15 foot away from you. So the long rod helps on casting and landing the fish. And then normally what we tie on here is a little hair jig. This is a little Spro jig. These here, Punisher makes these, and I usually use either a 1/16 to an 1/8 ounce. If it's real slick, I'll use a 1/16 ounce weight. If I got a little bit of wind, I'll use an 1/8 ounce. Now, this technique doesn't work very good if you've got too much wind, because what happens is the wind pushes the cork to where with that light jig, the bait won't get down. A lot of the reason for the weighted bobber, and a lot of places we fish this are on straight up and down bluffs, channel swings where the channel comes in and out. But what happens when your bait falls down straight, your cork goes up straight like this. When the fish pick it up or bite it, all you'll see a lot of times is your cork lays over sideways, because what happens is the fish grabs a hold of the jig and comes up with it a little bit, then the weight that's in the top of the cork just kind of flops over. Sometimes it'll actually go down like a regular bobber does, but a lot of times if the fish pick the bait up and swim up, all you see is the cork go sideways. Like I say, Punisher Lure makes a kit that's got the cork, the flies, the three-way swivel, and everything in it. I don't know of any place that's got them in town. You can probably just go to PunisherLures.com and get the little kit from them. Or you can buy everything separate. You can get, like I said, Spro sells a lot of the little jigs. This is some corks, some weighted corks that I got at Walmart. Now, another way to fish this same rig, you can use it on a regular rod with a cork that the line goes through the middle of it, and you can use a bobber stopper. Now, the good thing about the bobber stopper is you can reel that up through your line so that you can cast it like a conventional bait. I don't think it works as good as the three-way swivel, because a lot of times the little jig doesn't slide down through the bobber real well. You got to kind of shake it to get the line through it. But it's, it'd be the same way as if you were crappie fishing with a float. You can do it that same way as well if you don't want to use a 9-foot rod. But like I said, a lot of the places, especially when they're real little shad, when you start to see them dying along these bluffs, you start seeing some birds getting active. It's a really good time to try that float and fly. Seems like a jerk bait's too big a bait for them, and they're just feeding on them little shad is just spinning off and dying. But like I said, next week I'm going to try to get out, see if I can get a video and get that up on my website. Now, if you guys got any questions on anything, go to my website, Hooked on Bass. Send me a question and I'll answer them for you. I'm trying to answer 2 or 3 a week. So I've got one here I'm going to do. This is from Bill. He said last week I mentioned the likelihood of a shad kill. He was wondering if the last couple of years where we did not have a shad kill has altered the lake some. And have fish been more consistently been relating to the shad? Do you think if we get a shad kill, will it help the fishing overall, more or less return the lake to normal? Well, I think what was different last year is different from normal. Is we had high water early spring, and we had it all year. So that made the fishing a lot different. But I do agree with to answer his question on the shad kill. I do believe a shad kill helps. We haven't had one for several years. I believe what it does, it gets rid of the weak and the injured shad. And, sometimes it's just Mother Nature's way of thinning the shad population out so there's not quite so many. So I think that definitely does help, if we get a good shad kill. And also it seems to trigger the float and fly bite. One of the main things on the shad kill is getting the water temperature down cold. And I think we've had cold enough water this year, we should see a pretty good shad kill. Now, a lot of times, you know, all the way through January, we'd have severe weather and we'd have a severe shad kill. Sometimes too many shad, I don't think is good because the fish are just laying down there on the bottom, letting the bait fall down to them and gorging themselves. I think what you say, like a medium shad kill, but where they're not so thick that you just see isolated ones. Sometimes I'll get into an area where it's just solid shad dying. I usually try to get away from that if I find I'm not getting bites. And I'll get to an area where there's not quite as many. But as far as to answering this question, I do think it'll help and help get the lake back to normal, you know, the fishing conditions. But like I say, last year, I think it was mainly because of the high water and the current all year. It put the fish so far back up in behind the bushes you couldn't hardly get to them until late summer when the water started coming out of the bushes. It made it different than what we're used to fishing. So, you know, lake's getting down there right now. Hopefully we'll get a little bit of rain. Not a ton, just steady. So until next week, good luck, good fishing.